And it's another episode of a Locked On Braves. We're going to be talking about the outfield situation for the Braves on today's episode, talking about what the Braves have now, what they have in the future, and what's available out there for them this offseason, as that is probably their biggest hole after getting Freddie Freeman done, is what they're going to do in the outfield. So we're going to break all of that down on today's episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
Hey, this is Stacey Gotsoulias,
DC Lundberg,
Ryan Finkelstein,
Taylor Blake Ward,
host of Locked On Yankees,
Locked On Mariners,
Locked On Mets,
Locked On Angels,
and you're listening to Locked On Braves.
Locked On Braves,
Locked On Braves,
part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, where we talk about your favorite teams every day. I am your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on Twitter at shortstopball. Check out my bio there to see everywhere I am covering the great game of baseball, including the Atlanta Braves, over at tomahawktake.com in a written form. Also, make sure you follow the podcast on Twitter at LockedOn_Braves. And make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast. Also, make sure if you're watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. Just got over 100 subscribers there, so appreciate the support on the YouTube channel as well. And as always, thank you for making Locked On Braves your first listen each and every day. On today's episode of Locked On Braves, we're going to be talking about the outfield situation, one of the biggest question marks going into 2022. And didn't really think that would be the case going into 2021. Going into 2021, you thought you had Christian Pache taking over as the center fielder of the future. You had Ronald Acuna Jr. locked up for several years in right field, and you had Marcell Ozuna locked up for several years in left field. And you thought, well, this could be the Braves outfield for years to come. I mean, I know many people were kind of expecting the DH to come into play, and then Ozuna would shift to the DH, and maybe Drew Waters, maybe eventually Michael Harris takes over in the outfield. But you were thinking, man, the outfield is set. I mean, this can't get much better. And then halfway through the season, Pache struggles. He gets sent back down. He got the injuries as well. You got the Ozuna situation. He's gone. Who knows if he'll ever come back? And then Acuna in July ends his season as well. And the Braves win a World Series. And, you never know how things are going to play out otherwise. But, if that stuff doesn't happen, who knows if the Braves win a World Series in 2021. So just pretty crazy the way the outfield situation played out in 2021. Again, you thought you were set, had to completely revamp it, and it turned into a World Series championship. So not the recipe that I would hope for every year, to have to completely revamp the outfield midseason, but we'll talk about it on this episode. Can the outfield be a little bit more stable in 2022? What's it looking like to the future? And where can they look to for help on the free agent market this offseason to do that? Before we get into that, got some World Series gear coming in. Got my hoodie, my World Championship hoodie, World Series Championship hoodie coming in. So hopefully your World Series gear is starting to come in as well. But as we talk about this outfield situation, let's start off talking about with what the Braves have. You got Ronald Acuna Jr. He's going to be around here for a long time. Hopefully he's going to be healthy for a long time. I know he's already making good progress. There's people talking about him potentially being ready for the beginning of the year in 2022. I would not push that if I'm the Braves. As much as I want to see Ronald back, I want to see him have a big, full, healthy season. It's probably best to wait till at least May, even if they think he's close to ready. I still think that is a conservative estimate of when he'll be back, is probably sometime in May. So again, you still, at the very least, are going to have a good bit of time there to have to cover him in the outfield. Right now, your most tenured veteran outfielder that the Braves have under contract is going to be Adam Duvall. He's in his final year of arbitration, set to make around $9 million. I don't love that. I'm not the biggest Adam Duvall fan out there, but with what the Braves don't have in the outfield right now, I kind of don't see how they can't pick up his or tender him a contract. They need him in the outfield right now, unless they just plan to do a lot more with that money and make several other moves. I think it's a pretty safe bet at this point that Adam Duvall gets tendered a contract and will start the year on the Atlanta Braves roster. If not, Alex will probably just trade for him at the deadline again. But I think it's pretty safe to assume, unless just some other crazy trades and signings happen, that they will tender Adam Duvall a contract and that he will be part of the starting outfield in 2022. Christian Pache, I believe, as things stand right now, again, not talking about what might happen, but as things stand now, I think he's probably your starting center fielder. I kind of hope that he is, unless they have a big trade in mind for a center fielder. And I'm not really going to get into trade speculation on this podcast. We'll do some more trade speculation podcast on down the road. But I think there are some very good center field trade candidates out there that the Braves could target if they wanted to. But that would likely cost a Christian Pache in a deal like that. But right now, I see him, as the starting center fielder. He's on the 40-man roster. So, right now you got to, pencil him in as one of the outfielders for the Braves. If the season started right now, and I know that it doesn't, we're a long way from that, unfortunately, but if the season started right now, you would most likely have an outfield of Adam Duvall, Christian Pache, and Guillermo Heredia, which was going to be the next outfielder I was going to mention. Heredia is probably, right there, third or fourth on the depth chart right now, depending on when Acuna, can come back. That's not ideal. I mean, there's a lot that needs to be done in the outfield this offseason. This is also assuming Marcell Ozuna, who is still on the 40-man roster, still in a contract by the Braves, is not going to be eligible in 2022, which I don't think he will. But again, I don't think you can count on him being eligible in 2022, basically, is what I'm saying. Whether the league permits it or not, I just have a hard time believing that we'll see him in a Braves uniform again. But he's on the 40-man roster. He's technically under team contract for 3 more years now. So he is on there. So I have to at least mention him. Beyond those right there, again, your top 5 right now are Acuna, Duvall, Ozuna, Pache, Heredia. Likely only 3 of them are going to be able to play at the start of 2022. So that's your outfield as it stands right now. Beyond them, you have Travis Demerit, who I think, I thought he probably should have gotten a shot on the roster in 2021, but I think he probably will in 2022. They put him on the 40-man roster, protecting him there. So I think they have plans for him. He could also be somebody that could be a DH for the Braves. So I think it gets a look in 2022. And then don't forget, they tried Orlando Arcia in a corner outfield spot. I would not think that that's going to be likely, but it's at least a possibility. He is still under team control, and he's somebody that they could put out there, if they needed to. So to keep that, in mind. I'm not even going to toy with the fact of Austin Riley going back out to left field. I think his days are done there. He's become a really good defender at third base, obviously an MVP type season. I would not mess with that at all right now. But Orlando Arcia is a possibility. I really don't even like the possibility or thought of Johan Camargo out there. But I mean, those are your outfielders right now on the Braves roster. Again, if the season started today, that's what you'd be looking at, a Duvall, Pache, Heredia type outfield. Again, assuming Acuna is not ready for the start of the season. Even when Acuna comes back, you're probably looking at an outfield of Pache in center, Duvall in left, and Acuna in right. And that sounds a lot better. I mean, anytime you put Acuna's name out there, things are going to seem a lot better. But I could live with an outfield of Pache, Duvall, and Acuna. That is not terrible at all. Again, Acuna really picks up the slack there when you throw him back into the mix. But I think the Braves could survive with that, live with that. But as things stand right now, there is some work to do in the outfield for sure this offseason. So we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come and look at what is in the future in the outfield for the Atlanta Braves. I love Thanksgiving, all the good food and treats and plenty of them, but maybe you want a yummy dessert that isn't full of calories and sugar. It's the perfect time for Built Bars. Built Bar is the new holiday dessert. Feast on something delicious and feel good about it One slice of pie has upwards of 300 calories, and that's on the low end. Most Built Bars only have about 130 calories and only 4 grams of sugar with plenty of protein. Replace the coconut cream pie with a coconut Built Bar, or go for a raspberry Built Bar instead of that raspberry pie. Lots of good flavors to replace any pie out there. Low calorie, low carb, low fat, high protein, and covered in 100% real chocolate. Built is a great option for when you're hungry. If Thanksgiving isn't coming soon enough for you, go to Built Bar, go get a Built Bar or two at built.com and use our promo code LOCKED15. Share some at your family gatherings. It will make things less awkward. Built has new surprises all month with limited time flavors arriving at built.com regularly. So make sure that you are checking the site often. And there's nothing like a Built Bar Black Friday. Mark your calendars because Black Friday will be a huge event with all sorts of surprises. So go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your next order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. All right, so we talked about what the Braves have now, and part of that includes what the future looks like for the Braves, what's on the way. Again, Pache and Acuna are locked up long term, could potentially be two big pieces of the future outfield for the Braves. The Braves, 3 of their top 4 prospects, according to MLB.com, are outfielders. You have Pache up there with Drew Waters and Michael Harris. So, I mean, the Braves do have some good young outfield talent. And again, that doesn't even include Ronald Acuna Jr. So, but already talked about Pache, talked about Acuna. Behind them, Drew Waters is at AAA. I've never been a big Drew Waters believer, and it looks like he still has some more work to do at the AAA level. Still really young, still has time to develop, but just what I've seen of him so far, in person and in the numbers, I'm just not the biggest believer in him, but obviously you can see the upside, the potential with him. So, he's still in that mix. Michael Harris is the prospect that really shot up in 2021, really even leading into 2021. There was a lot of hype on him and he delivered, albeit, at the high A level. It's going to be a big jump for him to double A. Double A's, especially double A South, is a really difficult place to hit. So that's probably why they didn't jump him up in 2021. Wanted to make sure he gets plenty of at-bats there in high A before they move him up. But 2022 will be a big season for Michael Harris to see how he adjusts to the pitching at that level. Again, a very good pitchers league in double A South. And like to see him obviously develop some more power as well. So 2022 going to be a big season for him. He most likely, I would not think he would debut before 2023. I think 2023 could be pushing it as well, but we'll know a lot more about him and his value as a prospect in 2022. Got all the tools in the world. A lot of people got to see it in spring training last year. All the tools in the world to be maybe one of the best prospects the Braves have right now. So again, I'm really interested to see what he does in 2022. You also got Justin Dean and Trey Harris already at the double A level, probably more fourth outfielder types are they. But really, really good outfielders could work their way into the mix, in a year or two. Trey Harris was somebody I thought if he had a big 2021, he could be knocking on the door in 2022, but kind of took a step back in 2021. So I think his arrival time is probably pushed back a little bit further than what I originally thought it might be. But again, still time for him, obviously, to get it going. And, if things go right, he's an advanced enough hitter, a college guy out of Missouri. If he starts to show some promise, show what he did in the lower levels, but at AAA, where he'll probably start 2022, they could start him back out in AA for a little while, but most likely will get called up to AAA at some point. And so we'll see, if he starts to get back on track, the hitter that we know he can be, I could see him maybe getting a shot at some point in 2022. And then Jesse Franklin, their 2020 draft pick out of Michigan. I was really impressed with him. He also played at high A Rome with Michael Harris. And, Jesse Franklin put up a pretty good year as well. Got off to a very slow start, but then turned things around. He's a very interesting prospect to me, has a ton of power. So I'm really curious to see how he develops, how he makes that jump as well next year. to Double-A, but I thought he was very impressive again after a very slow start. Started to pick things up. So again, going to be a very big year for him and Michael Harris as they make that jump to Double-A to see how they perform. But those are your prospects in the outfield right now. Some guys coming up on the way, could be knocking on the door pretty soon. So we'll take another break and we'll come back and look at what's out there free agent wise for the Atlanta Braves to put together this outfield for 2022. BetOnline is back and better than ever. All eyes are on the gridiron as teams are back on to start another football season. You also have basketball season, college basketball season, college football season. Just so many chances to get in on the action. BetOnline has a new updated site and interface with even more odds, props, and contests than ever before. BetOnline continues to be your number one source for everything football and basketball related. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today. Receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit when you use our promo code Locked On. From football, basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. Bet online, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. All right, so just a quick look at what's available out there. Again, I'm only looking at free agents here. Haven't really had the time to go through and see what trade possibilities are out there. I'll probably do a whole nother podcast later in the off season, looking at all the potential trade candidates that will be available for the Braves. But just simply looking at free agents, we'll start with the obvious ones, the ones that the Braves just had to let go of, and that's Eddie Rosario, Jock Peterson, and Jorge Soler. You know, you've been listening to the podcast. You know, Eddie Rosario is my top choice. I really like what Eddie did, what he brings from the left side. You know, a solid defender as well. Had some sometimes an adventure out there, but then also sometimes would just make a really great play. I mean, two really great plays, and I think they were both in the World Series that just really, you know, where did that come from? But then, like at other times, just again, an adventure out there. You don't really know where he's going. So a little sketchy in the outfield, but I really love the bat. And again, I love having him from the left side. I think the Braves going into 2021, you know, needed more from the left side. Jock Peterson helped that out, but Eddie Rosario did as well. And I just think Eddie is a better all-around hitter. So I like having Eddie Rosario if they can bring him back, you know, kind of dependent on the price. After that would be Jorge Soler. Now, he is also not the best outfielder, although he impressed me with what he did in right field. Certainly wasn't terrible out there. But I love what he brings with the bat. I just love him. I love seeing him swing a bat and seeing balls go over railroad tracks. An image that I will never forget. So would not mind at all having Jorge Soler back. I would love to bring back Soler and Eddie Rosario if possible, but I don't know that that's going to be in the budget. But I think at least getting one of those, I think would be very good for the Braves this offseason. If you strike out on one of those two, then I like Jock Peterson. Wouldn't mind having him back. I don't know how he does in an everyday type role. You know, he did great for a while when he came over from the Cubs. He was already kind of in a groove, and that just seemed to carry over when he came to the Braves, but then really cooled off. You know, lost his starting spot once Eddie Rosario came along. So you know, I'm not really sold on Jock. More so want him for the clubhouse presence and the energy that he brings there, because he definitely breathed life into that clubhouse when that trade was made. So I'm not saying I wouldn't hate having Jock. He's probably the cheapest of those three, which is why I could see the Braves going after him. But you know, that'd be my order of preference. Obviously, is Rosario, Soler, and then Jock. And outside of those three, I'm just going to run through a list of some of the names that stood out to me looking at free agent outfielders. Andrew McCutchen, Nick Castellanos, Michael Conforto, Avisel Garcia, Kyle Schwarber, Tommy Pham, Mark Canha, and Starling Marte. I like all of those names, quite honestly. Nick Castellanos is going to be too expensive for the Braves. I just don't see them playing in that market. But everybody else on there should be pretty affordable, and I think they're all very solid options. I've loved Starling Marte for years. I thought the Braves should have traded for him 2 trade deadlines ago. I would have traded for him last deadline. I would have traded for him this deadline. Always loved Starling Marte. I thought he was a perfect addition to the Braves roster. But Now he is getting up there a little bit in age. So I'm not, I don't love him as much as I used to, but I still think it would be, a solid option, kind of a stopgap option for some of those other outfielders I talked about that are coming up. I like Andrew McCutchen as well. Again, getting up there in age, but kind of a stopgap veteran outfielder, smart hitter, knows how to get on base. I like him. Tommy Pham, if healthy, can be very solid, but that's been a bit questionable here as of late. So those would probably be some of the other ones I would probably look to, again, outside of Rosario, Peterson, and Soler. There are some very solid outfield names out there, some veteran types that you could use to try to plug gaps until Acuna's back, and hopefully, Pache gets it figured out. Maybe Waters, steps up in 2022 and proves that he's ready to make that jump. So there are some very interesting free agent names out there that I think could make sense for the Braves if they wanted to go in that direction. So hit me up on Twitter. Let me know your thoughts in the outfield. How do you see things playing out? Again, I didn't even really get into trade scenarios. I think there are some possibilities there as well. But let me know what you think your ideal lineup in the outfield is right now for the Braves based on what they have. Who are some outfielders coming up that you're excited about that you think are going to be part of the future Braves outfield? And who are some free agent outfielders out there that you would like to see the Braves go after? So hit me up on Twitter at Shortstop Ball. Hit the podcast up on Twitter at LockedOn_Braves. Let me know your thoughts on the outfield. Make sure you subscribe to us here on YouTube. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast, wherever you get your podcast. But that will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves, and we will talk to you next time.